Hi everyone, my name is Vithu, and my partner's name is Victoria, and we want to talk to you about our action research project. We had a few topics that we were deciding between, but one topic really stood out to both of us, which was assessment. For both of us growing up, assessments were always something that we dreaded. The stress of studying and memorizing was something that never made sense to us. After considering why we need assessments and the true purpose of assessments, we were able to come up with our action research question, which is, how does offering non-traditional assessment methods affect student success? As we stated earlier, assessments were something that we dreaded growing up. We soon realized that was because of the way we were being assessed. So, the problem that we needed to address was traditional forms of assessment. Are they effective in assessing students' understanding and learning? We want to see what would happen if we changed the way students were assessed. Would they be successful in the classroom, or would things stay the same? We believe that traditional forms of assessments do not truly assess students' understanding, but their ability to memorize. So, what is student success? When we define success, we defined it as students' ability to retain material and their ability to focus on self-efficacy so they're able to complete their work. So that is our problem and purpose. Now Victoria will be talking about our literature summary.
When it comes to the literature, we found a handful of amazing articles that has helped us get a better understanding of the topic we chose for our research question that surrounds the idea of non-traditional assessment methods and student success. While analyzing our articles, we noticed that there were two major themes that stuck out. Those themes were one, school switching from traditional assessment methods such as tests to non-traditional assessment methods and seeing a positive impact in their students, and two, how non-traditional assessment methods promoted more motivation in students when it comes to their work and learning. An important aspect that we learned throughout the articles that we found was that when it comes to assessment and student success, the language and strategies we use plays a very important role. When we put less focus on the grade that students are receiving and more on the learning that is happening, students can feel more ownership, adopt individual goals, and discover more autonomy in their learning. These strategies can include inquiry based projects, students choosing how they want to exhibit their learning that isn't through writing a test, but maybe through a presentation or a creative piece, or through group work and discussion. Although students may feel comfortable with independent work and some traditional forms of assessment, educators can always encourage their students to try something new to maybe help them discover a new way that works better for them. But ultimately, our job as educators should be focused around our students' learning and supporting them in the process of learning. Overall, when students have the opportunity to explore their work and content that works for them, students can make more meaning out of their learning. Now let's get into the details of our study, starting with the participants. The participants in our study will consist of our students in our homeroom grade 5 class. We will select 9 students in total who demonstrate different levels of achievement. We will select 3 students who are considered to be at a low achievement level, 3 students who are considered to be at a moderate achievement level, and 3 students at a high achievement level.
Let's look at our three data sources. The first data source that we picked are old assessments. This can be quizzes, tests, etc. Any sort of assessment that can give us an understanding of where our students are prior to the shift in assessment. The next data source we'll be using are pre and post interviews. A pre-interview to determine students' understanding and feelings towards assessments. A post-interview to determine if the view on assessments changed once they've completed different forms of assessments. The final source we'll be using is student journals. Students will submit weekly journal entries. Each day, students will be given journal prompts that they will complete. These prompts will be reflective in nature, but provide insight into students' learning. Next, we will discuss the measures that will be taken to ensure that the students we are working with and the data we collect remains confidential and safe in our ethical considerations.
When it comes to ethical considerations, we will be taking multiple precautions to ensure that our research is secure and ethical. Firstly, we will start off by sending home a letter of consent which outlines what the research is about, what type of information will be collected, and how it will be collected. This letter will give us an idea of who is and who is not comfortable with the research. Secondly, we will ensure that while we conduct research, all data is stored on a private laptop and any Data on paper will be only available to the researchers involved. For example, with student interviews, the digital files will be saved on a secured laptop and student journals will be housed in a secure cabinet. Thirdly, students will be provided with a pseudonym to ensure student confidentiality is met. When discussing research with colleagues or other teachers, we will ensure that we do not mention student names. And our final precaution will be removing students' names or other identifiers from old tests that will be used for this research.
We now want to quickly talk about how we are going to analyze all the great data we collect from our research. First, we would collect all of the old assessments and put them on a spreadsheet. From there, we would determine a median. This will give us something to compare the new assessments to. We can then determine if the students are truly understanding the new material. For our other two data sources, we'll be coding them to determine themes. For example, with the interviews, we would determine similar themes that are presented by the students. With our pre-interview, we could determine what did our students know about assessments before and how did their view change. With our post-interview, we could determine did our students have the exact same experience or what sort of things did they learn from this process. These themes will be organized and then we could determine similarities and differences. For our journals, we'll be coding them, but also looking at how the students reflected on their learning. Are they truly grasping the content deeper? And the journal will give us an insight to the total understanding of the students. Next, we will look at our timeline. We decided to represent our timeline using a graphic. This graphic represents a step-by-step breakdown of our action research project. Our timeline is from October to April. You can see from this graphic that we plan to begin collecting data from the middle of October right until April. We will do pre-interviews at the end of October with our selected students, and we will implement new assessment methods from October to April. We will be collecting student journals weekly to get an insight to how our students are feeling and doing through the process. We will complete the post-interview in April with the selected students. From there, we can examine all the data we have collected to answer our AR question. Next, we will look at the interventions.
As new educators, this information gathered from our research can give us a better understanding of how to engage students in unique and interesting ways with the aim of aiding in their success and overall motivation and self-efficacy. With the information collected, we will aim to focus our assessments around student learning rather than emphasizing results from a test that involve memorization of facts. If the students respond well to the non-traditional assessments we introduce into our classrooms, we can take that information and apply it to all the subjects and students we teach. This form of assessment takes away the stress of assessments and allows students to enjoy the learning process. Additionally, we can inform our colleagues about the findings, and if interested, we can provide them with ideas about the types of assessments they can try out with their students. With that being said, we hope our presentation inspires you to look into non-traditional assessment methods for your future classes. There are so many unique assessment methods that educators can adopt into their classrooms to make learning enjoyable for their students and help their students remember the information they learn. And to conclude, on behalf of Vithu and I, we want to thank you for listening and watching our presentation.